Hello, I'm not the devil of Hell's Kitchen like my husband. We'll get to that in a minute. I am the Daredevil. For now, of course. And, Retro, are you finally... Oh! Well then, is that a nice way to say hello to me? I guess I don't rival Rosa there. I got around to doing that movie. No, but... Where... Where is she? Meow? I'm never gonna do Sonic movies. Whatever. Look, just let her know I'm finally doing it. Doing what? Where's her helmet? Whatever. Hey, everybody, what's up? This is, well, you know who I am, you know what I do, and, this is, in my retro, I guess, Mandalorian armor, and, yeah, where do we, start with today's, triple feature, mainly because, I'm kind of pressed for time, and New York Comic Con took a lot out of me, and I did a 60-second review of the figure in question, by the way, Elektra. We're doxing names. Matthew was pretty blatant to just keep it on the codename basis, but well, first rules still apply to me at the very least. Yeah, so I'm told. So today, I'm gonna get a little backup because I had a nice little thing in the mail, thanks to a certain mutual friend, or enemy, or however long my rivalry was. She really was like that to you. I mean, this sounds a lot like me and Matthew, if I'm going to be honest. Can you just say Matt for once? Please. No. Okay, fair. Yeah, this is a stunt pistol case for YouTube copyright and TOS reasons. I've never bought airsoft a day in my life, and this is pretty much a stunt pistol, you could tell. So that's off character, but in character, it would have been my my Samurai's Edge. Now, for the people that have been with my Nerf reviews, I have pretty much reviewed and covered as much Resident Evil as I can. I absolutely love all the CG movies, but yeah, I only talk about a handful of the games mainly because of one particular person and reason in mind. I don't go full discussion on the mainline franchise. Yeah, let's talk about Mila Jovovich finally once and for all. We'll get to these first three movies of the Resident Evil live actions franchise, because the first three movies were dedicated to basically her and her navigating through essentially the mansion, the Raccoon City incident, and whatever the hell Ori Friday was supposed to be in producer's eyes versus how the movie ended up. So yeah. She is a Ukrainian-born actress. I know this woman like the back of my hand for the last 20 years because this is where I have to be real here and break out a character for the sake of, I guess, mental health reasons, so my apologies to my audience. Yeah, I had a celebrity crush with this woman, ever since I was a teenager, and, apparently so did Paul W.S. Anderson that directed the first movie. For those who don't know, she did have a tiny amount of action history for The Fifth Element, and, yes, I am not alluding this any more than I should. I am also going to review that as the finale to this, retro series, so I guess that's a minor spoiler coming up in November. But before we get to that, let's get to the first three movies of the Resident Evil live-action series. So, the first and the last three, I believe, were directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. He mainly produced the last two, the next two after, but for the first movie, you could definitely tell that it was leftovers of a script, he wanted to do while merging what was Constant and, I believe, Sony Pictures. There is another studio I forgot to mention off the top of my head. I think Davis Films that was mostly in charge of their DVD distribution, I think, at the time, or theatrical, I don't know which. But I know Constant was the big distributing factor for this movie as well. So, starting off at the top, my thoughts on Mila this time around for the first movie. Yeah, it was pretty cool. You could definitely tell those stunts were trying to be very Matrixy at the time, and apparently if you sat through Matt Draper's, retrospective, which I will be using as reference material, for this, two-parter of, all six movies, yeah, she was actually going to be a very different person, than the, final product of, Alice herself. Who is Alice as a character and as a story beat? Well, buddy, I wish I knew too. Seriously, it's been 6 movies and she doesn't know her past life or anything. Look, we'll get to future spoilers of the cloning in the mail next week, but for right now, let's just get to my overall thoughts with that first movie before going into Apocalypse. If I had to review it back in the day, I call it, I guess, a 5 out of 10, mainly because back when this was new, I was 8 years old, and it was the final straw that finally made my family put me into therapy because of the fear of this franchise. Yes, I did mention that the original games did used to scare me, particularly, like I said, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. However, what finally pushed over the edge for my family to put me into therapy was the trailer for the first movie. And so much so that I heard it in the background and not really in front of me. So, yeah, that was viral marketing back then. Just gonna let you know how it was. So, long story short, yeah, I am not dunking on therapy or anything like that. If you gotta do it, do it. I totally respect your mental health. Believe me, I pretty much had to use it all entirely throughout my teens and 20s. So, I kind of get where you guys are going. So, it's not impossible. Please hear your therapist out. I'm not kidding. So, with that out of the way, my overall thoughts on the movie itself before going into Apocalypse. It was an okay cast. You could definitely tell why both RE4 and the just recently finished Ada DLC from the remakes. Basically loved the laser hallway after all these years. I'll probably try to leave a clip of it here if I can. I'll probably put it in the description. You could definitely tell how tight the pacing is. You could definitely tell that on an action basis, you could see moments of Paul doing what he could with the material, given that most of the characters here are original and there's not a single established IP equivalent of our Resident Evil until like the final 3 minutes where Alice wakes up in Raccoon City, kicking off the events of what would normally be the mainline games. And honestly, on its own, it would have worked as a standalone movie, would have been its own character. Probably if this never got sequels, I would have totally saw, I guess, Alice be in the mainline franchise as like her own character, probably join with the BSA and just be pretty much that. But that didn't really happen because, yeah, producers kind of want another sequel. And the main problem here, as when Apocalypse came out, was two things. Number one, Paul was producing, and number two, the reason why he was producing is that he was doing Alien vs. Predator back in the day. So go to my retro review of that. And in case anyone wants me to talk about Event Horizon, maybe not. I don't know. Depends on next Halloween, if anything, for closure for you guys. So, starting off the top for basically this movie, you're getting pretty much a netted loadout for Alice this time around. She apparently has superpowers, and you kind of can't tell, and we'll get into the on-again, off-again superpowers she gets throughout the franchise. We'll talk about that in the last 6 movies next week, but if you told me that dual SMGs, a shotgun, and dual, I guess, Samurai Edge Berettas, which was the style of handguns at the time for action movies in the mid-2000s, was going to be my loadout for when I eventually do Nerf reviews here on the channel, I'd probably believe you to some extent. I don't know how much, but definitely to some extent. So, what was the big problem for this movie versus the last one? Basically doing what I said that the original movie didn't want to do. Use established characters from the games, which will eventually be the biggest problem going forward when we get to, what is it, Afterlife, Retribution, and not even Final Chapter. Again, we'll talk about those movies next week, but I legitimately forgot the lady that played Jill Valentine here. I think she does come back in, I think, either Afterlife or Retribution. But she is basically classic Jill, more or less. Another failed pitch I wanted to do for this was to get to pay cameo for Nicole Thompson, who plays Remake 3's Jill, and basically just laugh off like, oh, you're sitting through the live action movies, cause freaking luck, or something like that. But yeah, for long story short, check out her Insta. She usually has decent links to like her signing live streams. If you guys never got to see her in cons or throughout this year, it's a good catch up if anything. Another thing since I'm here talking about cameos, was to get Sphere Hunter. Yeah, long story short, I had a dumb idea of just getting people I know in the RE franchise that are like that are established voice actors that have a decent social history to probably get a cameo out of to talk about these movies. And yeah, the less people involved in this, the better. So that's why you couldn't get cast. And we'll talk about that guy when we get to the clones next week. So yeah, the pace of most of this is pretty shorter. I can only imagine how crazy the action was. Oh, right, yeah. Nemesis. Another big thing about my childhood phobias of this franchise was this little shit right here. Long story short, it's not basically whatever the games or even the remake described. Um, Nemesis as like a self-made like Mr. X like runner style tyrant mini boss brush kind of thing. No, he is absolutely just a guy from the last movie that you barely remember, and if you're a TV actor watcher like myself, I think was in Pushing Up Daisies. I could be wrong with his time as a character. Also, speaking of Matt, by the way, speaking of Matt's over here, he was the guy that ended up being Nemesis in this movie, and if I remember correctly, he was in a Crow sequel, so if I ever got around to do the Crow franchise for reals, I would absolutely be weirded out knowing that that guy was there. Like, I know way too many character actors than I know real actors. Okay, so do I get any input for the action this time around for this movie? Yes, please, I've been, like, zoning out for, like, the last 5 minutes. Oh, really? Great. So, where do I start with most of the action for Ms. Jovovich as her adaptation of Alice? It's very much what Retro said. It's definitely the action-y side of things. You can definitely tell the overall loadout was basically his starting, I guess, year when he was starting out in most of the old organizations we were in. Okay, look, you can talk about me being in the Fist, but everything else as far as my lore goes is kind of off limits for the rest of this month. Okay, fine, whatever. Look, ultimately, if you loved Apocalypse as a kid, or in his case, his way of breaking fear of the franchise. Okay, it was a stepping stone, long story short, and if you can tell this video series is going to be my therapy session to this franchise once and for all, you'd be right. But before we get to that, let's get to the last movie before closing out this week with Resident Evil Extinction. Again, going with the therapy theme here for my franchise hood of this whole thing. This was the first movie I actually saw in theaters. I'm not kidding. And long story short, I kind of gonna have to regret to inform you, this is kind of where the series stops becoming like the mainline entry into the original games, because this goes full like actual apocalypse. And no, that's not a picture of Mila in like nowadays, like I guess Vegas, if that stupid sphere I've been seeing lately as their tourist trap. Kind of got self-aware. Jokes aside, how do I say this nicely? Oda Fair's Carlos is not going to be around this time around, because I forgot to mention he was also an established character in both Resident Evils 2 and 3, mostly 3 in the original game and remake. And yeah, speaking of character actors myself and my dad loved, he absolutely loved Oda Fair when he was in the Mummy franchise. I think he overly quoted something from like Returns I kind of forgot to say. I think it was like a call, I guess a rallying cry to his guys going after Emotep before the Scorpion King, of course, in that movie sequel. So someday I'll talk about the Stephen Sommers trilogy, and honestly, that sounds like a lot better viewing experience than pretty much this, because another Inside Baseball here in the channel, I forgot to basically watch this while it was still available on Netflix after the RE TV series last year, and in case you could tell, I'm doing all 3 of these from memory, so it's going to be pretty hard to do essentially the next 3, because I absolutely need a streaming service, and that's not really going to happen, so good luck with me there as far as next week goes. However, I can talk about the other thing that the next week's 3 movies will basically have in common. Very awesome endings to very failed follow-up openings. It's probably going to be a theme. And in case you can obviously tell, aside from me trying to blur out the assload of nude Mila's over here for copyright reasons, is that they finally get around to doing cloning. And speaking of, I guess, established characters for Extinction, it's one of the first appearances you get with Wesker, and I guess, like, businessy him, not like, Chris, like, basically RE5 him. Again, there was a lot of RE5 comparisons I had when I was a teenager watching this back in high school, so the big draw of this movie, for better or worse, if I could find or pick, was Ali Lauder's, Claire Redfield. And long story short, she's okay. For some weird reason, when Felix did a review of this back in the day, he always was like, why they all want smokes and stuff like that? I guess as a reference to the original intros of the original games, and Chris eventually does smoke in was it RE8? So I guess a long Kong like story trope that kind of becomes a thing in the cutscenes, I guess, to feel stay canon kind of thing. I don't know. As for Mila this time around, she definitely integrated her superpowers. Another big thing with basically Umbrella Corporation throughout this movie franchise. They act like a business while the world is on fire and where the apocalypse now happened yesterday kind of thing. I know TFS callback jokes, sorry for that. I'm gonna keep this short. It's the most engaging out of all of them. As long as like you get used to like the wire work and the stunts and the fact that they did most of this. I think in the actual desert, I don't know where. If I think either Mojave or probably some country to double as a standout Vegas. The zombies this time around are pretty much trying to be, I guess, Day of the Dead rules of, like, the company trying to, like, re-educate them to do, like, remedial tasks and stuff like that, to be helpful for the workforce, old metaphors like that, so there is a little bit of, like, George Romero-isms there, but not by much as far as, like, Resident Evil standards go, because the big draw of, like, the RE franchise is that you're supposed to basically survive these incidents and try to just, like, say it's all Umbrella's fault for a while. And then even, like, the Capcom himself, like, wants to move on to other stuff, which, again, I'll try to get to talking about in the next video for the last 3 movies. So, my overall thoughts of the first 3 Resident Evil movies, if I had to review, I think, Apocalypse at the time, I would give it an A because it was my first movie, breaking my fear of the franchise, and I think Extinction and Apocalypse... No, Extinction, yeah, you can tell that it's really hard to mix match. So, Extinction is the 3rd movie, Apocalypse is the 2nd movie. They were my first attempt of trying to finally, I guess, have a little more courage for this franchise. For some, it was playing the games. For me, at the time, it was watching these movies. So, yeah. What did you think of my review of all 3 movies? Alexia, what do you think so far of the whole thing? You were not kidding that this was going to be a therapy experience, and, what happened to all of these guys? Umbrella employees basically cosplaying as, like, I guess, minions of, Comic-Con cosplayers. The organization will rise again! Yeah, sure it will. So, I'm gonna go back and, re-hension into my armor here to sub the channel and hit the notification down below. And yes, I will probably do my end of the year TV roundup with Ahsoka and Loki. I'm absolutely behind on Loki. My bad in advance to my TV viewers on that. My overall thoughts so far of Ahsoka's last couple episodes, it was actually dope. It was really worth it. They have a weird pitch for season 2, if I remember correctly. This was a limited series, so how are you getting another season? I guess maybe a standalone movie, who knows? I'll talk more about that next month, if anything else. So until then, I'm Retrokid Reviews with the end cards. Going over to me here for the shows for my long overdue 60-second review of my figure. And to me over here to my previous video, which was again talking about Comic-Con and what I was planning to do. And yeah, for only being there for 1 day and still, as of this recording, kind of half sick. Not overly con sick. I was overly prepared for that. But yeah, didn't get around to getting photos of the Critical Role cast and doing the Predator handshake with Marisha Ray. I'll probably have a cooler idea next year, so not for nothing. At least I got this figure, so like I said, I guess these dumbasses here to sub to the channel, and until the next 3 movies, I'm Retrokid Reviews saying, last 3? Okay, let's dance, Mila. So, you were told not to be parasocial, and you were definitely parasocial there. No, I wasn't!